This is a story about one of America's favorite pastimes, eating everything in sight. The real reason buffets are failing: endless fried chicken, build your own sundaes, a steak fight that made national news. These are just some of the clues that can tell us why buffets are disappearing from our shopping malls and highways. They used to be everywhere. What happened? Why are they going away? To understand why buffets have gone from beloved institutions to unwanted leftovers, we need to take a look at their history. In order to really dig into this, we first need to talk about the buffet itself. Now, buffets aren't new by any means. In fact, they've been around for hundreds of years. But the modern buffet as we know it today actually traces its roots back to ancient China. You see, during the Qing dynasty, Chinese emperors would host feasts with long tables filled with an array of dishes from which guests could choose. Sounds familiar? Well, the word buffet actually comes from the French for table, which is also where we get the English word buffet. As the centuries passed, the concept of the buffet evolved. It became more than just a large table laden with food. It transformed into a style of serving food where customers could serve themselves, choose what they wanted, and eat as much or as little as they liked. And this idea eventually made its way to Europe and then to the United States. Now, while the idea of the buffet has been around for ages, the modern American buffet really took off in the mid-20th century, particularly after World War II. There was a surge in population, and people were looking for convenient and affordable dining options. Enter the buffet. It was an ideal solution. Customers could choose from a variety of dishes and take as much as they wanted without having to wait for a waiter. And the restaurant only had to pay for the food that was actually taken. The savings were passed on to the customer. And before you knew it, buffets were popping up everywhere, from roadside diners to fancy hotels. It was a win-win situation. Customers got more for their money, and restaurant owners enjoyed higher profit margins. But the real boom for the buffet industry came along with the rise of the shopping mall. Malls became community centers, and buffets were the perfect complement to an afternoon of shopping. A quick, cheap meal that didn't require a lot of time was exactly what mall goers were looking for. So buffets moved in and set up shop right in the middle of the action. By the 1980s and 90s, it seemed like every major mall had its own buffet restaurant. Some focused on seafood, others on Mexican or Chinese cuisine. Some were themed to give you the feeling of dining on a cruise ship or on an African safari. But no matter the theme, the basic concept remained the same. All you can eat for one low price. It was a great deal for customers, and it made sense for businesses. So what changed? Why are buffets suddenly out of favor? Well, there are several reasons behind the decline of the buffet. And to fully understand it, we need to break down the economics of this business model. On the surface, a buffet seems like a pretty straightforward operation. You buy ingredients in bulk, prepare a variety of dishes, and let customers serve themselves. But there are hidden costs involved that many people don't consider. First off, there's the issue of food waste. With a buffet, you never quite know how much food is actually going to be consumed. Unlike a regular restaurant, where you can tailor the menu and the portions to match demand, with a buffet, everything that's put out needs to be sold. If there's leftover food at the end of the day, it gets thrown away. And that's not just wasteful, it's also expensive. Then there's the issue of labor. At a buffet, you typically have a lot of staff members doing a lot of different tasks. You need cooks to prepare the food, servers to keep the buffet stocked, cleaners to keep the area sanitary, hosts to manage the flow of customers, cashiers to handle the payments. And because buffets are usually open for extended hours, including weekends and holidays, labor costs can add up quickly. And that's not even taking into account the cost of the actual space. Prime real estate in a mall or along a highway is expensive. And when you're running a business where your profit margins are already tight, those costs can really take a toll. And then there are the hidden costs that come from customers. You see, when you're operating a buffet, you need to be prepared for anything. Spills happen, plates break, condiments get left on tables. And if you're not prepared for these mishaps, they can quickly turn into costly mistakes. Add to that the occasional customer who takes advantage of the system, maybe by bringing their own containers to take food home, or by simply wasting food and you start to see how the numbers just don't always add up for a buffet owner. Now, despite these challenges, the buffet industry kept growing until the early 2000s. Something else came along that changed everything: the Great Recession of 2008. During tough economic times, people tighten their belts and look for ways to save money. And buffets, with their reputation for offering a lot of food for a fixed price, were hit particularly hard. People stopped going to malls as often, and when they didn't want to spend as much money on dining out. Suddenly, the economics of the buffet, which had always been a bit precarious, got a whole lot tougher. As if that weren't enough, another game changer was just around the corner. We all know how disruptive technology has been to the restaurant industry. Online reviews, food delivery apps, social media, each has impacted the way we dine out. But one development stands out as a particular game changer: the rise of subscription services. Services like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Spotify, they've become part of our daily lives. And customers have grown accustomed to paying a monthly fee for unlimited access to a wide range of products or services. And when this trend hit the restaurant industry, it was bound to disrupt the status quo. Take a moment to consider the typical customer of a buffet. Families, groups of friends, individuals looking for a good value. Now imagine offering them an alternative. Instead of paying for a buffet, customers could sign up for a monthly membership that gives them unlimited access to a restaurant's buffet for a set period. Say 3 months, 6 months, maybe even a year. Suddenly, the old model of pay per visit doesn't seem as appealing. The math works out differently for the restaurant too. Instead of relying on customers to visit multiple times over the course of a year, the restaurant gets paid up front. It locks in a steady stream of income, regardless of how many times the customer actually visits within the membership period. And let's not forget the power of data. Subscription services gather a lot of information about their customers, everything from their dining habits to their favorite dishes. With this data, restaurants can refine their offerings, reduce waste, and cater to the specific tastes of their clientele. It's a win-win situation. Customers get a more personalized experience, and restaurants can optimize their operations. So the question isn't whether buffets will disappear, but how soon and how completely. How soon will buffets either adapt or fade away? How completely will they fade away? We've looked at the economic factors and the impact of changing customer habits, but there's another side to the story. The disappearance of buffets isn't just about cold hard numbers. It's also about nostalgia, tradition, and a touch of psychology. For many of us, buffets hold a special place in our memories. Family gatherings, birthday parties, even first dates, we've all had experiences that were centered around a buffet table. There's something comforting about the predictability of a buffet, the assurance that whatever you're in the mood for, it's probably there waiting for you. However, as the world evolves, so do our tastes and preferences. Younger generations are looking for more diverse and unique dining experiences. They want smaller, more frequent meals. They're willing to pay a bit extra for quality over quantity. And that's where the traditional buffet falls short. It offers quantity, yes, but does it really satisfy the other cravings we have for variety, quality, convenience? Moreover, we can't ignore the role that perception plays in all of this. Today's consumers are more informed than ever before. They read online reviews, they compare prices, they check nutritional information. And the all-you-can-eat buffet, with its emphasis on quantity over quality, doesn't always fare well in this new landscape. The image of endless lines of fried chicken or mystery meatloaf might not be as appealing as it once was. To stay relevant, buffets need to evolve. They need to offer more than just the promise of unlimited servings. They need to provide an experience that's worth paying for. Some are trying to do this by incorporating interactive elements, things like build your own stations for salads or desserts. Others are focusing on quality over quantity, offering a smaller, more curated selection of dishes, perhaps with a focus on locally sourced or organic ingredients. Still, others are leaning into the nostalgia factor, positioning themselves as purveyors of classic comfort food that never goes out of style. But even as some buffets try to reinvent themselves, others are hanging on by a thread. Their locations are closing, their profits are dwindling, and the future looks uncertain. In the end, the demise of the traditional buffet may not be as dramatic as it sounds. Yes, some buffets will close their doors, but others will adapt, finding ways to stay afloat in a changing market. The key will be to embrace change, to listen to customers, and to innovate. After all, the restaurant industry has seen plenty of changes over the decades, and it's proven that it can adapt. Who knows? Maybe the next generation will look back and reminisce about the buffets of today the way we look back at the diners of yesterday. One thing is for sure though, the all-you-can-eat era is coming to a close. The question is, are you ready to say goodbye? And thank you for watching.